hold of stability. My company, a tech distribution firm, isn't the talk of Wall Street, but it holds its own just as I do in my life. There's always been one person by my side, one foundation that remained unshaken, Tanya, my wife. We met in college. She was full of energy, and I was very organized. That's how our love story began. We balanced each other out, and I saw a future in her eyes. We married young, and our relationship was a testament to our shared commitment. Tanya, a striking woman, even as age began to gently touch her, was the pillar of my personal universe. Her laugh was like music. We were very close friends for 20 years. It's hard to forget that bond. But as of late, I found myself grappling with doubts. Tanya, who used to find comfort in our cozy home, now seemed to be frequently drawn towards business trips. These trips came with her job, a marketing manager position at a multinational firm. They were part of our routine, but their frequency began to rise. I noticed the changes slowly. She used to call often and talk about everyday things and laugh, but now her calls were few and far between and brief. She started to spend more time in front of the mirror, choosing outfits, doing her hair, her usual jeans and t-shirt replaced by sharp suits, her ponytail often let loose. She joined a fitness club. Her evenings often spent sweating out the frustration she wouldn't voice. I saw it all, but my mind refused to acknowledge the signs. The fabric of trust we had woven over years appeared too strong to be torn by suspicion. I thought it was work pressure. I told myself it was a phase. Maybe she was dealing with the midlife crisis of her own, seeking the adventure. She thought her settled life lacked to ease her stress. I did what I could. I took over household chores, organized surprise date nights, expensive weekend getaways, even planned a vacation to rekindle our spark. Nothing worked, not a single thing. I just figured the Tanya I married had vanished. I told myself it was just a rough patch, a phase that would pass. After all, we have been through plenty together, ups and downs, failures and triumphs, losses and gains. This too, I thought we would overcome. Well, as it seemed the joke was on me. Well, fast forward a few weeks, Tanya's behavior changes, initially subtle, became more pronounced. She was on her phone well into the night, something she had never done. And sometimes when she was texting and she was sitting next to me, she would tilt her phone away from me. Her sudden fascination with fitness and fashion was another puzzle piece. Tanya had never been vain. Comfort had always won over style in her books. However, now she spent hours at the local gym, returning home with the glow I hadn't seen in years. New clothes started to fill her wardrobe, bold and stylish, replacing her old comfy staples. She started experimenting with makeup, trying out looks she previously only scoffed at. These changes were not wrong. They were not incriminating, but they were uncharacteristic. The woman who loved to cuddle on the couch with the book was slowly disappearing, replaced by the new version of Tanya I could barely recognize. I started to get real suspicious because her behavior didn't go away. It got worse. So I was going to do some snooping to see what I could find on my own. First, I looked at our credit card statements and bank accounts. I didn't find anything out of the ordinary. I saw the usual stuff she bought her makeup from, but nothing overly expensive. And of course I checked her phone and our phone records. Nothing that was surprising considering she was on her phone quite a bit. Finding no answers from Tanya's phone and all the other places I looked, I turned to a more desperate measure, hiring a private investigator. Shortly after contacting and conferring with the private investigator, I gave him Tanya's daily routine, her hangouts, and the usual time she was going to the gym. After just 10 days, the private investigator delivered his first report. Inside were photographs of Tanya with the man. I did not recognize he was younger, clearly affluent, and from the intimate way they interacted, it was apparent they were more than just friends. This was Alex, as the investigator identified him, a high-flyer entrepreneur, someone who was evidently part of Tanya's life. Seeing their proof of her betrayal was heartbreaking. For a fleeting moment, I thought of confronting Tanya to demand an explanation for the betrayal, to ask why she chose to shatter our life together. But then an idea took root, darker plan. I decided to let the scenario play out a little longer. Why should I expose my hand when the game was just getting interesting? So I put on a brave face, played the role of the trusting husband while the wheels of my head kept turning, devising a course of action that would serve justice in my own way. It wasn't just about Tanya anymore. It was about Alex, the man who thought he could infringe upon my life without consequences. I started collecting information about him, his business, his social life, his vulnerabilities. Every empire has its weakness. And so did Alex's. His business was thriving. Yes, but he'd made enemies. He had vices that he believed were well hidden. It all became ammunition in my hands, tools to dismantle the life he held dear, revenge. I decided it wouldn't be swift. It would be slow, meticulous, ensuring that with each passing day, Alex would lose something, a business deal, a friend, his reputation. I was in no hurry. After all, the sweetest revenge is savored slowly. I was going to take apart his life piece by piece, just like he did mine and Tanya. Well, she'd be watching from the sidelines, just as oblivious as I was when the cheating started. She'd witnessed the ruin without ever knowing that she was the reason behind it. Oh yes, the thought of it felt satisfying. Alex was a self-proclaimed tech visionary, a smart individual who'd managed to attract a decent amount of investment for his startup. A startup, however, that was teetering on the brink of financial collapse. The company had developed a promising product, but the revenues were not meeting their expectations and the investors were getting restless. I slowly began my assault using a series of shell corporations and anonymous accounts. I started buying up Alex's company debt, a 5% here, a 10% there, never enough to raise suspicions, but always enough to slowly tip the balance of power in my favor. With every debt purchased, I was effectively buying a piece of his, gaining control over the company he had poured his heart and soul into. Every bond, every bank loan, every IOU that Alex had ever signed was slowly, but surely landing in my portfolio. I wasn't just a silent partner anymore. I was a larger stakeholder in his sinking ship of a company, and the best part, Alex had no idea who was pulling the strings throughout the process. I maintained my facade at home, a loving, trusting husband, ignorant of Tanya's betrayal. The mask was beginning to fit me all too well. The smile never faltered. The conversation never waned. The plan was coming together. Alex's company was slowly becoming my puppet. I was just waiting for the right moment to start pulling the strings. Alex's startup was a house of cards waiting to be toppled over, and I held the wind in my hands, leveraging the control I had gained over his company's financial lifelines. I initiated a sequence of events that started the avalanche. I pulled strings here, nudged levers there, using my business experience to orchestrate a symphony of corporate catastrophe, a questionable decision by the board, a key investor backing out, an unfortunate leak of bad financial results. And soon enough, the company's stock started a free fall. Alex's tech dream was turning into a nightmare played out in the glaring light of financial news networks. The vultures of the press circled his reputation, which began to tarnish in the public eye as his failing leadership came into focus through it all. Tanya remained oblivious. She continued her secret rendezvous, lost in the charm of Alex, unaware of the iceberg. Her love ship was rapidly steering towards my sweet Tanya, unaware of what was about to hit her and her lover boy as the stock of Alex's company plummeted. So did his dreams, his hopes, and most importantly, his appeal. I was setting the stage for the ultimate fall, and Tanya, unknowingly, was about to watch the grand spectacle with Alex's finances in disarray and his company's reputation in shambles. I decided it was time to strike the final blow. The third act of my revenge plan involved leveraging my long-standing ties with law enforcement, using them to unearth the skeleton I knew Alex had in his closet. I contacted an old friend, a veteran detective known for his tenacity in uncovering financial irregularities. A quick chat over a round of golf, a casual mention of some questionable business practices I heard about Alex's firm, and the seeds were sown. The detective, intrigued by the potential lead, initiated an investigation. I had strategically provided him with a breadcrumb trail that led him right to the bones of Alex's unscrupulous past. It turned out that Alex, in his desperation to keep his failing startup afloat, had engaged in fraudulent financial activities. The news broke on a quiet Tuesday, with the same media that once lauded Alex's entrepreneurial success now gleefully reporting his downfall. His arrest was nothing short of a spectacle. His face, now synonymous with corporate greed and deception, was paraded on every news channel. As I watched from the privacy of my home, a sense of satisfaction washed over me. Alex was a man broken, financially crippled, his reputation tarnished, and now a criminal in the eyes of the law. His world was collapsing around him. just like mine did when I discovered his affair with Tanya. Tanya, on the other hand, was just beginning to comprehend the gravity of her choices. The man she had risked our marriage for was nothing more than a fraud, but my revenge was not complete. Oh no, not yet. Tanya, now disillusioned by the whirlwind of events, was visibly shaken. Her secret love affair was out in the open. Her dream man was nothing but a sham, and she was left alone to pick up the pieces of her shattered fantasy. One evening, as Tanya sat in the quiet of our home, I decided it was time for the confrontation, the final act in this play of betrayal and revenge. I recounted the entire narrative, the initial suspicion, my discovery of her affair, and my revenge on Alex. As I revealed my role in Alex's downfall, Tanya's face went through a spectrum of emotions: disbelief, shock, horror, and finally a deep-seated guilt. She tried to justify her actions, tried to apologize, but I was unmoved. Her words echoed around the room, empty and meaningless, fueled by the revelations and their aftermath. I initiated the divorce proceedings. The man Tanya had left me for was now penniless, his reputation in shambles, and Tanya, she had nothing left to bargain with. I ensured that my lawyer was one of the best in the business. He left no stone unturned as he prepared the divorce papers, ensuring that every legal loophole was plugged and every term was in my favor. Tanya, for her part, seemed to accept the inevitable. She didn't contest the divorce, didn't even try to negotiate the terms. The process of splitting our shared assets began: the house, the cars, the vacation homes, the stocks. Everything we had acquired over the years was now just a matter of paperwork. And then came the day of the final hearing. The judge went through the motions, asked us if we were sure, and the judge granted the divorce. She didn't get any alimony, but she got one of the homes, a few stocks, and one of the cars. The news of our divorce spread fast. Friends, family, colleagues all came forward with their advice and their support. In Alice's case, the detective said he bonded out of jail, but that's all he could tell me. About 8 months after the divorce, Tanya sold the vacation home she was awarded in the divorce. I never saw or heard from her again.